Hi all, I've been asked to cover a subject which is very important really, and it's when I realised that I had a problem, or when did the problem start, with alcohol, because I think with me it was quite young really, and I suppose why do we persist with it, keep going on with it. But I've also been asked to do a slightly longer video. It's not too long, but I'm just going to talk a little bit about where it started really when I was younger. I never had any issues when I was young. I was 14, 15, had a couple of drinks here and there. And then I was 16, I went to work, electronics place. Actually, I hated it. Didn't want to go there. My mother tried to get me in the Met Police when I was 16 as a cadet. I didn't want to do that. My dad was a policeman in Northumberland, So I was playing in the band, did the bass. Thought I was going to be the next member of U2, that sort of thing. Anyway, I hated this job at this firm, which is local. I didn't want to be there. I wanted to get away from home. I meant to get away from Northumberland, really. Didn't like the Northeast at the time. I don't like it now. I've come back. However, I drank most nights when I was 16, but nothing major. I would say, sort of ordinary beers and stuff, ordinary lagers, Carlsbergs and that sort of thing, which was quite Carling, which is very low. Looking back, it's a very low percentage, isn't it? Didn't have any major issues, but we used to drink quite often, drink a little bit in the band, but not too much because we had to drive, pick the equipment up and all that sort of thing. But I like to drink, and looking back now, I speak to some people who know me, or used to know me in those days, and they said, oh, you used to drink quite a lot, even when you were 18. But I was running with a crowd who all drank, maybe a little bit more than the average. And then at 21, I joined the police. It was a bit of a turning point for me, because it was like I got away from home. I became part of a team then. I liked that, because as an individual I wasn't that confident, but as a team I always felt really strong. And most of us socialised pretty heavily after work. And I'd never drunk in the morning when I was that age, but somebody suggested having a drink in the morning after nights. It was like 6 o'clock in the morning. I lived in a section house. It was just all single policemen, policewomen really. And I remember going in to the TV lounge one morning, and a friend of mine, Brian, I'll not identify him any further than that. He used to be a good PC. Just a solid lad, And he said he'd had a few cans. Do you fancy a few in the morning? 6 o'clock in the morning, 6:30. So I thought, why not? We're on nights, it's just gonna be like an ordinary, like a day really is for us, isn't it? It's 6 o'clock finish in the morning, the same as 6 o'clock finish at night, in a way. It just doesn't sound acceptable. So I got into that habit a little bit. And then when I was in the section house, we used to do earlys as well, obviously earlys, late nights and then days off, I was on a 4-week pattern. And often earlys, we finished 2:30, maybe have a little sleep in the afternoon, because you'd been up pretty early, so a little kip, as it were. And then some of the guys like to go out on the early turn, and I started to do that a little bit, but I wanted to get to bed at a reasonable time. I was still probational then. And then another bloke there, another Brian actually, he used to sort of knock me up and say, come on, go for a pint, 11 o'clock. There's a nightclub down here, there's loads of women and all that, the usual stuff when you're young. And I used to go down there, so it's 2 in the morning, and then get a couple of hours kip, and then have a shower and go to work. But I was young and fit then. I don't think I was addicted then, but I was a habitual drinker. And eventually I was in the Met, and I went to South London. I was married, but no children at the time. Marriage wasn't the best, but I was concentrating on my career and my work. Did the sergeant's exam, passed that in my 20s, ended up in West End Central, the bright lights of Soho, Mayfair. I had to drive into work at that time because I lived in South London. So I didn't drink and drive. I used to drink when I got home, or sometimes on my days off I used to go to the West End and get a train from a place called Abbey Wood in South London. From then I moved up to Epping. I was on the Central line, so I didn't have to drive. On the Underground, see, and I got promoted. I was just driving from Central line from Epping into Oxford Circus, well, certainly London to me was a party town really. And I started drinking a bit more. But still had no children, about mid-20s, had plenty of cash. Not plenty of cash, but you know what I'm saying. Okay. And I started drinking a bit more, and then I started to use credit cards to get cash out with the Bureau de Change. And she would notice, why is this credit card bill not paid? And I used to hide the statement, see, because on shifts, it was easy to intercept the mail, if that makes sense. Then I started thinking, well, I'm drinking a bit too much here. But I didn't really do much about it. She drove me along to the doctors, and the doctor said, you've got to cut down. There was no physical issues then, there was no mental health issues, I was just drinking too much. And you can cut down at that age, because you're not physically dependent. I wasn't physically dependent, I used to just like a drink. But I drank every day, just something. After nights, after earlies, and after lates. So I sort of knew then, really. And I didn't do anything about it, because I didn't want to stop at that point, you see. So I would say probably late 20s, early 30s, I realised I've got a bit of an issue. I didn't want to stop, because it was part of my life. It was a massive part of my life. I always had a good career. I had a few hobbies. I used to go fishing, a bit of tennis, a bit of running, all that sort of thing. Go to the gym now and again. But the main part of it was drink. And we used to have a thing called a Thursday club. On a Thursday, it used to finish 2:30. And we had 3 days off then. Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and didn't go up at work. And then Monday nights, that was 3 days off. I could have free and drink. And I drank more then. Somebody used to come north, a bit of a drag really, but I used to drink all weekend in Northumberland and go back feeling terrible on the Sunday night. I used to be all day Monday to get a bit right again for work, I suppose, Monday night. Even then, it didn't feel right. When you drink too much, you don't feel right, do you? So I carried on with that for years, really. And I cut down slightly, and I went back up again. And then my daughter was announced. So for about 10 years I've been drinking, and I've been recovering. Just me and the ex-wife, with a dog. It was a nice quiet life, wasn't it? And suddenly this baby arrives, and everything's like, wow, there's no more rest period. So from then on I drank a bit more. Initially to overcome the tiredness. I don't know if anybody else experiences this, but you obviously get a bit of a high, don't you? And you don't feel tired suddenly. But the cumulative effect of it makes you exhausted. And then the anxiety started to kick in. The real anxiety then. About what people at work notice and all that sort of thing. So I did the next exam, passed that, and did some acting inspector, and I was still working. I was doing right at work. I thought I was a functioning alcoholic. Well, that's what I was. But you're never really functioning properly, are you? At the time, a lot of other people used to drink. But not everybody drank heavily. And did that for a few years, but my home life was a bit disrupted. It was a lot disrupted, so I wouldn't get much sleep. And from then the anxiety got worse and worse, having problems with transport. Couldn't fly. And I just got myself in a bit of a mess. Financially, I was ducking and diving with money. I think I've mentioned a couple of videos before. I've gone away on holiday, and the credit cards were maxed out, and had all sorts of issues, all sorts of domestic issues from then. Then eventually retired at a reasonable age, came back up north, which is a big mistake. Got divorced. I was drinking a lot then. I got divorced. I had the time and a bit of cash. Tried to open a business. That didn't work because I was drinking too much. And then I just settled in my own little flat, in my own little world, and I started drinking more and more. So the question was, when did I realise? I think late 20s, early 30s, when it starts to impact on your life. When you get to the point of drinking, and you know you're doing yourself harm, that's when you need to seek help. That's the pivotal point. Because stage 1 and 2 are, I would say, social, moderate drinking. Stage 3, you're drinking too much, too heavily, and you know you're doing yourself harm. But you still carry on with it. And maybe things are happening at work, things are happening in your private life, things are happening financially, but you just ignore it. Because the pub and the buzz of having a couple of drinks and makes you feel bad, doesn't it? You feel a bit down, but you have a drink and you feel better. That's a common thread amongst this, isn't it? You feel better, you feel more relaxed. So I got to the point I couldn't relax without a drink. That's another thing, you see. And then from then on, I went into I had serious problems. I was off for 8 years. Doing that, I relapsed. And every time you relapse, you see it gets worse. I didn't realize how bad it would get. And I couldn't get off between 2014 and 2019. I was living in squalor then, with rats and, you know, I had no electricity. I had electricity and gas. I had no heating. I couldn't let anybody in the flat. It was really bad. I didn't eat much. I went down to 9 stone. I had a sinus fluid build-up. I had all sorts of issues in hospital. Nearly passed away. Intensive care and all this sort of thing. So that's another story for another day. But when you realise it's starting to affect your health, your marriage, your relationships with parents, friends, children, finances, all this sort of thing, it's actually affecting your health, then you've got to look to get some help. You've got to look to cut down at least. I could have easily cut down age 30, but I didn't want to. You need this want, you need this desire to get off it. So look at yourself now and think, when did I realise this was a problem? Because it's never too late to stop, you see. I thought it was, but it's not. And the sooner you catch it and nip it in the bud, the better really, because it's not going to get a hold of you. Because it will get you in here as well. When it gets you in the head, which has got me in the head, that was the dangerous part, because I just couldn't stop. I was fighting because I had a seizure, because I had previous seizures. You need to cut it dead before then. And you know, people I speak to a lot, I keep saying you must stop drinking. Even because a lot of people can stop, you know, they aren't dependent. And they get this boredom factor. What am I going to do tonight? I've been at work from 8 till 4, or 9 to 5, or 10 till 6, and they've got this void between 6 and 11. We're going to fill it with. Normally it's going to the pub, isn't it? Or just on a few cans, on the TV, when you drink, when you used to drink when there's made a bit of food. And you've got to try and get some healthy habits. That's the difficult part. Getting sober isn't that difficult for most people. But staying sober is the problem. And it's a very emotional, it's a big impact on you. So when somebody says you can't ever drink again, when you've been king of the pub, or you've been used to drinking every day, because it's every event, isn't it, you go to, there's drink around. And you've got to try and break it down into week by week, or day by day, in my case, hour by hour. And eventually you'll come around, your body will fight for you, you know. You will get better. But look at yourself, drop me a line in the comments. When did you realise it was causing you problems? And why didn't you do something about it? Because the time to do something about it is now. I mean, people say, oh, do try January, and then go back on it. So you've just wasted a month of, I would say, hard work. It's hard work coming off a drug. It's not easy. A lot of people can't do it. A lot of people pass away, thousands every year. And last year was the highest alcohol-related death rate in the UK ever recorded. So it's a dangerous, dangerous game. If you want some advice, then get in touch with me. Got any comments, leave me a line. Sorry, drop me a line. And you know, if you benefit from this, please subscribe and share it, because there's a lot of problem drinkers. There are more than I imagined when I started this 11 months ago. A lot more than I ever imagined. People who are worse than me, people who are better than me, they've got better health, but who will go downhill quickly, because as you get older, obviously your body can't repair. It's a very dangerous drug, alcohol. And I forget about all these people who say, oh, alcohol and drugs. It's all drugs, but we're not educated when we're younger that alcohol is a drug. It's acceptable, isn't it? You buy it from anywhere now. Just go to the petrol station. I've been to put some air in the tyres. Somebody's going over 3 bottles of wine. So, you know, Sunday at 5 o'clock. So you've got to be very careful, and you've got to realise if you're younger, or you're earlier in your drinking career or stages or whatever, then you've got to realise, you know, hang a minute, I have had a couple of days off work. I have felt a bit rough. I have had a few problems with my wife, husband, children, parents, whatever. People are starting to talk negatively to me. I've become a bit more anxious about where I am, what I'm doing, paranoid, all that sort. So, you know, take a long hard look at yourself, because there's only 2 ways it's going to go here. If you've got an alcohol problem, you're going to survive a bit longer and look after yourself and have a good life, or you're not going to be here anymore very, very quickly, because alcoholism takes a lot of lives. A lot of illness is linked to it. And if you don't get on the right track, it will take you early. I've got a lot of friends who died between the ages of 50 and 65. It's too young. And it's all because of alcohol. No other reason. Because it causes other issues, you know, heart attacks, strokes, and that sort of thing. So, as I said, give me a shot if you need any advice on it. I'm not a doctor, but I've been there. I've experienced just about everything there is to do with alcoholism and illness and that sort of thing. And I'll speak to you all soon.